How do you see the community's attitudes towards HIV have changed over the years?
I suppose that depends on which community we're talking about. So after spending 10 years in Melbourne, I feel that the community there has got a much greater acceptance of HIV. It's a lot more prevalent and on display in some of the gay dating apps. I think the community as a whole has less hang-ups and issues about it. Coming back to Perth 5 years ago actually felt like I'd gone back to 20 years ago in regards to the way the community accepted HIV in its social circumstances. There's a lot of narrow-mindedness from the gay community in regards to it over here. And I think there's work to be done on creating a safer place for positive people in WA.
I think there's still a lot of stigma out there, and a lot of that actually comes from positive guys as well as negative guys. But I don't think it's as bad as what it used to be, especially with probably a lot of younger guys, because they don't seem to, not that they don't care about it, but they don't see it as being the death sentence it used to be, basically.
It's changed, as in there's a bit more acceptance one-on-one, not so much in a group setting where people aren't very accepting of who you are. It's pretty much the inner circle and you're on the outside, sort of a thing.
How does an end to HIV in WA look like for you?
I think there's many different aspects to an end of HIV in WA. I think the first and foremost is an end to stigma and discrimination about HIV in WA. I think that's something that is achievable by the people on the ground, and especially the positive community. They're the ones that, if they take a stand, will start to reduce the stigma and discrimination that's felt. As for an end of the virus itself, I think we're a long way from that at this stage. We talk about a functional cure, but that's 10, 15 years away. So I think in the short term, it's not going to disappear. It's not going anywhere, but neither are the positive people that are here. I think it's important for me personally to have a vaccine. I would like to know that there's no one else going down the path that I've had to over the last 17 years. So I think it's multi-pronged when we talk about an end of HIV, but it starts with ending the stigma and discrimination.
But it's not as much about it as what there used to be and people dying and all the rest of it. So, and I mean, a lot of people that I have spoken to and seen on different things and that it's actually been a good thing for them because it's actually turned their life around and they've become a lot more healthier and a lot more looking after themselves, basically. So it's fantastic if it does end, but I also don't think it's a bad thing if it doesn't. I mean, if we can stop the infection, yeah, but yeah, because I mean, there's still going to be us out there who are going to be living with it, even if there is a cure. So, yeah, because I mean, I've met some fantastic people since I've been positive, which I wouldn't have met before. So, yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't know.
It's more about acceptance. It's about accepting you for who you are. It's more about loving you in totality, not picking and choosing things out of you. I've experienced a lot of that.
In terms of the community, and in particular the gay community, how do you see yourself fitting into that community as a gay man living with HIV in 2015? And do you think that stigma and discrimination are still an issue in our community?
Mark, I definitely think that stigma and discrimination still are part of the community. I'm out there and on the gay dating apps, and it's fairly hit and miss, the responses that I get. I disclose my status and people just block or just stop communication. So I think it is still prevalent there. I think it actually feels that the stigma and discrimination that we face from the gay community is a little bit more barbed than we get from the rest of society. And it's a minority picking on a minority, and I'd like to see that change. I find that I just exist as a gay man in normal life. Okay, I associate and go out with the people that are my friends. I don't bracket or closet myself to only hang out with gay men or gay positive men. You know, I'm quite happy to head to a straight bar, one of the small bars, and have a date and show affection. Because in Melbourne, that's just the accepted norm, okay? The scene there, or the community, has kind of gone, we don't need to create a ghetto to feel safe. You know, we still need those spaces, and they're still there. So I think, you know, as a gay man, gay is one of the many things that I am, and it's rather down the bottom of the list. It's what I do in my bedroom or in my own personal space. It's not who I am in public. In regards to being a positive gay man, I think there's a lot the community needs to develop in itself, and I suppose being elected as one of the WA reps for NAPWA means that I can add to and contribute to that, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I've always kind of been a person, whether I'm positive or not, that thinks if you don't like me, that's your problem, whether I'm positive or whether I'm not. So I don't really worry about what a lot of them think about me to a certain extent. I mean, we all do, but realistically. But I think the gay community has changed a hell of a lot anyway. It's not as close-knit as what it used to be when I was in my teens. It's very segregated, and I think that's down to apps and everything else like that. So, and I think we bring it on a lot ourselves, being positive. And I think the more that we try and put ourselves out there and let a lot more people know that we are, it's not going to change unless we start doing something and start saying, well, okay, I'm positive, you have nothing to fear or whatever. So, and that's why I want to try, and with a couple of social events that are happening, is see if we can actually bring in positive friendly people or negative people or just friends who really don't care, and most of them don't.
I think now it's more about me being comfortable with who I am, and the more I'm getting comfortable with who I am, the more acceptance there's around me, or I'm seeing a lot more acceptance around me in that sense, where I've made myself part of the community, and there's still a lot of pushback from a lot of people where they're not sure, they don't know what it means. Some of them are quite open, willing to, and they just go, and what does that mean? It doesn't change who you are. Whereas others just kind of brush you off, which is sad. It's sad for them more than for anyone else, because it's no different to having diabetes.
HIV testing is not necessarily an easy thing for people to do, and we are trying to encourage people to get tested as often as they need to. What are your thoughts about testing in 2015, especially since you went through that process yourself?
For someone who has a fear that they may have contracted HIV, I think that's still a really scary prospect, to go and get your bloods done and wait that week or 2 weeks. And I don't know how we make it easier for them, because I think there's always a fear of medical stuff or doctor's appointments where we're going to get bad news. I think it's ensuring that we have the right supports in delivering that news and providing a support network after it's been given that makes it easier for people than it was 17 years ago. They're not going to get the news that they've got a death sentence these days. They're going to get the news that there's treatments and they continue to lead a healthy life. But I think they know the stigma and discrimination that exists, and I think that's why it's fearful and quite a hurdle to get people in and get them tested.
It's scary. It's a scary thought to go, because you're stressed after you actually go for the initial test, thinking what's the result going to be. But I mean, you should be thinking that with everything else as well, not just being positive. So yeah, if people got tested a lot more, and I think that's part of the problem too, is not just the whole ramming condoms down everybody's throat, it's ramming getting tested down everybody's throat to try and get them to get tested more often. Because it's not a scary thing to do. It's a jab with a needle, that's it, basically.
For me, it's probably one of the best things that happened to me. It was a good wake-up call for me in terms of putting myself back in check. And I've never been this fit in my entire life, what I am today, which is good for me in a lot of ways. It's changed my outlook towards life. I'm eating healthy, I'm looking healthy.
As a HIV positive gay man, what does a world without HIV look like for you?
Mark, I think a world without a HIV is an incredibly long way away. I was fortunate enough to attend AIDS 2014 last year, and just seeing how privileged we are in Australia with access to treatment and good medical care made me acutely aware that that's not the case in the rest of the world. You know, there are still thousands dying from AIDS every day, and we're a long way from getting treatments to these people, let alone removing HIV from their worlds and the entire world. I think a world without HIV, it's kind of, I can't quite fathom it myself. You know, 17 years with the virus personally, that's nearly half my life. So how do I conceptualise what a world without HIV is? And maybe it's peaceful and a little calm, because to achieve that, we've got to fix other aspects that are throughout society. And stigma and discrimination isn't just about positive people. It's about disabled people, coloured people. You know, they all face the persecution of the masses. So I'd like to think it's peaceful, a peaceful world without HIV.